Okay, everybody, we are back with Kenshintrek and D&D Nat. They're going to be showing off some Super Castlevania 4, of which an incentive was met for whip only. So take it away, guys.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and I hope you're ready to see some Super Castlevania 4 that is going to be run by one of the most consistent whip-only racers that you will see play this game. kenshintrek is a fantastic runner, and as mentioned before, we normally do this any percent. We normally say crosses kill bosses. We throw crosses, it goes down easy. But we're going to make things a little bit harder. Thanks to your donations and reaching the goal, we are doing this whip only. That's right, we are just going to have Simon try not to pick up any sub-weapons. Picking up a sub-weapon would void the run, but because this is indeed a marathon scenario, if he does, worst case scenario, we're just going to have Simon jump off a ledge and restart the scene. The run is technically void, but we're going to go ahead and get through the game whip only anyways. So, without any further ado, you're going to be hearing my voice a lot, by the way, so my apologies. There's a lot of tech in this game. Try to keep up. Without further ado, we're going to be starting off the countdown. Run will start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! So, but for some that may realize, Kenshin is not speaking right now, and the reason why is that this game requires some audio cues, requires some visual cues, and a lot of focus. Let me tell you, this game is, it looks very easy, very straightforward. Simon's walking forward, he's on a flat land, but it's unforgiving. There are times where this game is just going to do its absolute best to ruin you, and it does that very well. So, Super Castlevania 4, first released in 1991, and ported over within the same year, is a two-dimensional platformer where Simon is going to try and take care of Dracula yet again. First stage is basically going to be walking through the stables where the boss Rodain, an undead knight on horseback, is going to be attempting to stop Mr. Belmont from advancing any further. Normally we would say here, pick up the cross, as I mentioned, we get a triple multiplier, but we're going to avoid it. Now the cross would normally be in that candle right there. We're going to do our best to not pick up any sub-weapons, not accidentally hit any candles, and make sure that we don't pick up anything. Everything that is in this, those fireballs can be dangerous, nicely handled. Everything that is that is inside of the candles is predetermined. It's a map. There is very little things that are random, except for a few hidden wall meats, which might be multipliers if you do not have the multipliers, and you're holding a sub-weapon. But other than that, we know exactly where all of the candles are. We try our best to avoid lining up our whip at all or taking any risks. We can spawn the sub-weapon, we just can't pick it up. And sometimes that's actually going to be a strategy for if we need to deal with it. We can spawn it, jump over it, or just completely avoid it versus taking any risks. What you're going to notice about this game is that Simon is power strutting his way through stage 1. That's right, he's got no greater speed, no run button, no sense of urgency. He knows exactly where he needs to go, and he has the time to get there. But we're going to speed up just a little bit. Our fuel, is our health. We're going to do our best to boost forward as fast as we can, using the highest boosts that we can, because Simon likes to move forward faster when he gets damaged. So most enemies do between 2 or 3. Some of the higher ones do 4. We don't want to be taking 4 because Simon has an even amount of health. We want to take 5 3 damage boosts throughout the course before we need to get meat again. And if we do 4 damage boosts, well, that's all of our health. So we try to keep it odd. We try to make sure that we keep in track of our health. As Kenshin actually now comes up to Rodain. Now, Rodain would normally be a couple of jumps, a couple of crosses. We gotta be careful here, because the patterns, they get a little bit chaotic towards and out of hand. Rodain jumping is not the best pattern for time, but is the safest. You can whip him while he's in the air and coming on down and pause him down there. Fantastic job, and stage 1 complete. Now, stage 2, the swamps. You think that maybe, undead creatures, zombies, imps, skeletons, mummies, are they going to be the major problem here? Maybe purple hands actually would be more of the issue. No, it's the animals. The animals are really the big issue in Super Castlevania 4. This is a common theme, especially if you've ever ran hard mode. Birds, bats, frogs, armadillos, specifically the flying creatures actually, they have a very chaotic pattern, and we try to deal with them as soon as possible. There's no real way to know what their habit is going to be. Normally we would take care of them as soon as they appeared on the screen by, well, time crosses. But this time around, we're going to do our best to try to cover the area which we believe they will swoop down into with a well-timed whip, and hopefully we will take care of them. It can get a little crazy sometimes, but we have backup strats for this. I'd like to actually point out, by the way, kenshintrek is fresh off of a PB for whip only. He is currently 5th place with a time of 37:15 that he acquired 6 days ago. That's a fantastic time considering how much work and studying they need to do and how many things can go wrong in a whip-only run. Dealing with a couple of the frogs that come in, a safety limp whip that kind of acts as a shield. One thing that I'd actually like to point out is that Super Castlevania 4 was the first multi-directional whipping that Simon can do. It was one of the major features that they advertised when the game was released. One other thing that Simon can do is produce a limp whip. Now, if you are to hold the whip button for longer than the animation of the whip, Simon will hold the whip out, but it actually ends up going limp. We use this as a shield to protect Simon against any form of projectiles or weaker creatures, but we try not to use it to deal damage because it only does a small fraction of the damage of a fully extended whip. So we try to do full whips and we can just tap the button for the full extent of the whip. But we want to do our best to not limp whip unless we are causing enemies or doing a strategy that requires the whip to be limp, because it can kind of get hectic if we miss a full damage whip. Kenshin now making his way into the river. The tide of the river actually pushes Simon forward. This is a very time-sensitive level where we want to pick up the invincibility potion, and push forward using the tide to our advantage for as long as possible. You'll see that Kenshin is actually jumping right now because, guess what? It changes direction halfway through the stage. Try to take as many boosts as possible to ride out the bad current, but right now we want to try to spend as much time in the water moving forward that we can. You'll notice that the 2 imps here are going to appear. Safe. Much safer. Sometimes you can get a bad pattern here and you do not want to risk that. So that is a much better pattern to go for to save self any types of headaches. You'll notice something. There was no boss at the end. That's right, because there was Medusa at the very beginning, in the middle, actually, of the level. My apologies. And that can actually sometimes be a problem if she's aggressive. So Kenshin did a fantastic job of taking care of Medusa. That's actually one of the few times you're going to be able to see Medusa be taken care of. Versus, just being eliminated with crosses. Into stage 3, the caves. The caves are... Yep, sorry. Absolutely. Jump right on in.
Okay, perfect. So we have a $111.11 from Trogdor the Memenator saying, "Cancer is a coward. My father whipped it. My mother whipped it. I whipped it. And now we can whip it together. Go kenshintrek. Please put this towards Trevor only." And we have a $200 donation from LV Creed saying, "As always, because I can." Thank you, everyone.
That's amazing. And I believe that actually pushes us over the $2,500 threshold, if I'm not mistaken.
It sure did.
Congratulations. Well done, everybody who has contributed thus far, and just that's an amazing amounts that we're able to gather together here to play games that we love and raise money for a fantastic cause. So thank you everybody who has donated thus far for us to reach this amazing goal, who donated to the incentives to be able for us to do the whip only stuff, and we'll continue, and everyone who has donated past this point moving forward, thank you in advance for everything that you can do for us. It really makes this all worthwhile. Right now, scary moment, unfortunately. Stage 3 has a little bit of a curse to it. We call Stage 3 a gate. And the reason why Stage 3 is a gate is because it requires a lot of health management. If you do not have the proper amount of health to take boosts and get a lot of skips, unfortunately, you end up losing a lot of time on the waterfall. What Kenshin was going for there was what's known as the ring glitch. Now, when Simon jumps, there's an arc physics that's applied to him. Basically, they calculate the jump arc. When Simon is on a ring, on the other hand, it is a pendulum physics that is outward from the center. So, since there's no gravity, jump arc, what happens if Simon attacks from the top? Well, gravity doesn't exist, and we can use that ring glitch to skip good portions of the levels and land Simon up on a ledge, because when you release from the whip, they implemented a little bit of a hop to give a real release feel from the momentum of the swing. This little hop allows us to jump off of the vertical ring and jump onto the next floor. But unfortunately, if you do not have the health to take the boost, which allows Simon to not enter the back half of the map where the enemies are, then you take some damage and you can be launched into the pit just like that. Here Kenshin is going to set himself up, jump over the eyeball, and get the eyeball boost. Amazingly done. That allows him to stick going down, around, killing the dragon here, and not having to deal with it at all. That is a major time save. Very well done. He's got a good amount of health for the back half. Unfortunately, that death happened, but he didn't lose too much time, thankfully. Beginning of the waterfall is the checkpoint, and unlike in any percent, you don't have to rebuild your crosses. So when you lose time, when you die on a stage, you don't have to rebuild. You're not like hindered for rebuilding your crosses and trying to get back on tempo. It's very easy to do so with the whip only, as you only need 5 hearts in inventory for the first whip upgrade, and then 8 hearts in inventory for the second. So you're able to get right back on track and back into rhythm very, very quickly. Here is a good example of the ring glitch, where he skips the having to deal with all of those ledges and going all the way around, and also the boost actually allowed him to go and despawn a dragon because of a sprite overload. Here is Perfect Vipers, twin-headed dragons that cause tons of lag. A couple of whips. Now, the pattern on the Orphic Vipers is the same every single time. So if you can map the fight and you know how much damage you're doing and how often you can whip, you are going to get the same fight every single time. One thing that I'd actually like to point out as well, this is very difficult to do, especially on a keyboard. Kenshintrek is one of the few people who actually run on keyboard instead of a handheld controller or a USB controller. While that may help him get true inputs a little bit easier, this does not help him for things like limp whipping, ring glitches. It's actually much more difficult to do so, especially something called whip cancels, my apologies. Whip cancels are when you allow the animation to play all the way through that I had mentioned before, where the whip goes limp. Well, if you cancel the animation of that, you let the animation play through for a frame, it's actually shorter than letting Simon do the full whip and then going back to a neutral stance. So what you do is you whip, full extend, cancel for a second, and then whip again. It's a very specific rhythm, and is a very good trick to do for whip only, and it's very, very difficult to do, especially on people. Here we have Puexel, the skeleton. Wait, the boss isn't the skeleton. No, the boss is the tongue. Technically, Puexel is a parasite that lives inside of bones and skulls. And also, the name Puexel backwards is licks you up. That is the theme for this stage. You'll notice that the stage, by the way, stage 4 is essentially the entranceway leading up to the beginning of Drax's castle. Puexel, backwards, licks you up. Coronat at the end of the stage, ton of rock. The golem boss. So this is actually going to be a fun little play on words that they did when they ported over. There's another one later on in the stage, but we're going to get to that. What you're noticing, by the way, is something that probably anyone who has dealt with this game casually, the Medusa heads. Ever been knocked into the needles before, trying to figure out how to handle this? Whip them, thrown crosses maybe? Chances are you've been knocked off once or twice. Have you tried standing still and crouching? Because that's the easiest way to do it. You do nothing. The Medusas are sine wave patterns that are based on Simon's head height, so by crouching, you actually create the easiest pattern ever. You don't have to move, and then the room rotates back. Speaking of rotating room, Kenshin is making his way into the affectionately called Tunnel of Love. The Tunnel of Lag, really. This is a Mode 7 example, but the Mode 7 isn't the problem here. The problem is those little wriggly red things that you see. Every single enemy here is a sprite. When they die, it's a sprite. When they spawn, it's a sprite. Simon's whip is a sprite. The cross is a sprite. You're getting the hint here. There's a lot of things on screen here, and the more that we kill, the more that we spawn, the more lag we cause. So the best rule is to jump over things, not kill things, and make your way through the tunnel. And also, the spawn patterns are time-based. So the more you kill, the worse your pattern gets. So just enjoy that for a little bit. Here we're into the rising rooms and the rising platforms of stage 4. I bet you guys have ridden this thing all the way around before, right? Well, it's actually not higher up the level. It doesn't work that way. It ramps all the way around. And you can actually just walk straight across into the Crusher area, which leads to the final boss. There's also a zip that can be done there, where similar to in the Mega Man games, where when Simon is placed into the wall, he will skip a portion of the level. But the setup of that is not necessarily marathon safe, so I do not blame Kenshin for not implementing this into his run, especially as a whip only. Generally, we would use the cross as a buffer in order to lock us in place, or to determine when we should whip to be knocked into the wall, and this becomes very, very difficult with whip only. So here is Coronat, Counter Rock, the Rock Golem Protector of Stage 4. We have these two platforms that are rotating up and down, and depending on when we kill Coronat, we might actually be able to get an early orb here, but it's very, very tight. It requires us to be able to kill him at a point where the platforms will stop moving at the very, very peak of their height, and Coronat's... He actually got it! That's actually sick! That's a really hard trick to pull off, especially in whip only, because you have to deal with a lot of chaos depending on what Coronat's RNG is. So to line that up is very, very difficult. Very well done! Stage 5! Take a moment to breathe. Don't get comfortable. There's not a lot of enemies on here permanently, because there is something called RNG harpy spawns. You can get no harpies. You can get tons of harpies, and we hope that we don't get any at all. As you saw there in the first part, there was none at all, and as long as we keep moving forward, the amount of harpies that spawn here are lessened as long as we keep moving forward. The second we stop moving, or we turn around, or get knocked back, the harpies are not going to play nice. They have a tendency to multiply. We're not really sure as to what the issue is with that. I'm sure one of the people who've been more into the game, shout out to Boga, who does a bunch of ROM hacks as well. I'm sure he could tell us. But this is when you get knocked back. Okay. Things can get a little out of hand, but thankfully we are in the second half. The staircase that leads us up to Castlevania 1. Castlevania 1. This is essentially a giant retelling of the story. And this is where Castlevania 1 picks off. And this is also where the game gets a lot harder. Enemies have more health. There's a lot more enemies. And generally everything here, if you miss a strat, especially in the top end, you are unfortunately going to perish and start at the beginning of the stage. We got ourselves one dog kill. That's an awoo. We can get some awoo in chat. These dogs are dangerous. They do 4 points of damage. We don't like that. Remember what I said before? Even numbers 4 points? No bueno. So here we're going to go ahead and jump over these platforms, jump over the knight, whip down the rules, whip the bat, and deal with the anxiety chandeliers. The moving platforms that shift back and forth. Now, there is a way to do this with one cycle, where you do not have to wait for any of the chandeliers. It is very dangerous. There is also a way to do it with 2 cycles. Slightly less dangerous, uses an audio cue, or a specific setup for later on in the map where you wait for a rotation when you jump at a specific time. And then there's the safe one, 3 cycles. And this is what Kenshin is going to be doing, and I do not blame him for doing this. 3 cycle is safe, you are alive, and when you die in on these chandeliers, you end up back below, in the room below, like, you respawn. So it's a lot of time waste. It's much better to wait. It's only 4.5 seconds for each cycle. It's worth it for marathon strats to try to stay alive and keep moving forward. Here is one of the moments, notice how I mentioned before, we spawn the axe, but we don't pick it up. That is one of the key moments where if you get knocked back after, you'll be picking up that sub-weapon, and the run is void. I've done this multiple times myself. It is extremely frustrating. Take Kenshin's practice here, and take your time. Jump and whip the ghouls, and take care of the ectoplasms a safe distance from the axe. Kenshin is almost at the halfway point of stage 6, where we're going to be entering the aforementioned hallway. The skeleton area where it's dangerous. It's scary. And especially in whip only. Ooh, things get scary. So, the skeleton hallway is a line of Richards, as we love to call them. There's another nickname for them, but that's not appropriate for what we're doing here. The skeleton hallway allows us to, tries to stop us. and the boosts allow us to move forward a little bit easier. But you have to make sure that you have the right amount of health going into this, because otherwise, the Richards don't play nice. See, those two jumps over those red skeletons, generally red things in general do more damage. Red cars go faster, red skeletons do more damage. We don't want to be getting hit by any of these guys at all. We want to make sure that we keep our health at a very good amount for the last scene, just before the boss. Remember how I'd said, like, oh yeah, there's animals, there's undead creatures, and all these enemies? Well, what if we threw inanimate objects? Like, let's say, tables. I think tables would be fun. Coffins? Let's animate some coffins and throw them at Simon. Furniture is our enemy here, is what I'm trying to tell you. We have undead dancers that are going to be dancing around the room, and we have chairs and tables that are going to be attacking us. A cool little trick that you can do off of this is a table boost that essentially allows you to boost off one of the chairs and get a much higher boost. Good read of the pattern. That pattern can kill you if you're not careful. So, Kenshin playing it safe here, as he has to deal with these dancers that might spawn and ruin your day and ruin your run if you're taking it far too risky and far too extreme. And here we have Fred Astaire, Paula Abdul, the dancers that were humorously named after similar dancers in real life. Very good pattern there. That 3-whip, jump up over the top, down whip, and then whip up from the bottom is the exact strat that you need to use. You're able to take out the projectiles that the dancers spawn right away and whip them down and finish them after you take care of dealing a bunch of damage. If you take a boost, it's okay, just keep whipping and you'll take care of them fast enough. Here we are in stage 7, the library. Grab a book, sit down. Quiet, no noise. Here we're going to face something that everyone loves, the book jump. It's a jump later on in the game, which is a very tiny frame window, and it saves us about 1.5 seconds of a rotation of the book, but is very, very fun to do, very risky. We love putting all of our runs... Oh, that axe just kept on going, and you're never going to see it ever again. But the book jump is a very, very fun trick, but, you know, it's also risky, because if you miss it, and you're done. Here, Kenshin's gonna go for the backup meat. Well done, get some health. Let's see if we get low axe or high axe. High axe, good. So he gets to save a little bit of health. He sets himself up for the rotation here. He spawns the books at a specific time so that he can keep going without stopping. Well done! Let's get some hype in chat for that book jump. That is a terrifying jump to do in marathons. It requires very, very specific timing, a full jump, good reaction, both forward and the jump button being pressed almost simultaneously. It's a very, very risky maneuver, so well done. For the boss of stage 7, the library, would you think it would be a librarian or perhaps a wizard that protects? No! We are going to be facing a knight in shining armor. Grakul, the knight that protects the library. We're going to talk more about him in a second, but first, take a moment. Look at that caterpillar. Man, that's a really cool caterpillar. And we're never going to see it again. Have a lot of fun with that. That was one of the coolest enemies in the entire game, with one of the coolest sound effects, and you don't even deal with him at all. Like, at all. And he just despawns, and you skip him, and you say forget about it. If you even get the meat, which is tucked away in the corner, and you wait there long enough, he'll just despawn. He'll just go off the screen and never come back. So, here we are with a little bit of the final hallway before Grakul. Take a couple of boosts, skip the bats, jump over the painting's hand, and here we are, the knight in shining armor. He has essentially 2 phases, axe phase and sword phase. Axe phase, he can either throw the axe or slam the ground. This is a very good pattern. Wow, he's just standing there. And, he regenerated a bit of health there. Okay, so he has the sword pattern and the axe pattern. That was a very, very good pattern in the very beginning. No fireballs. He was able to stand there and whip. He got into the second phase. Grakul lowered his shield. Now, the shield works by basically saying that it negates the damage that is being done. But sometimes it can actually regenerate a health, which is not supposed to happen, but it does. So hopefully when we face Grakul and we're whipping him, we don't get too many regeneration. I've seen him stand there in any percent, and actually this has happened to Kenshin, and just wailing away cross after cross after cross after whip, no damage, and you lose like 4 or 5 seconds. Welcome to stage 8! Stage 8! Anyone who's played this game casually knows that there are needles everywhere. You will die. You might also notice, by the way, one little thing. Some of you might be thinking, wait a second, this is supposed to be red. No, this is acid, and that's actually one of the things that were converted when it was ported over from the Japanese version. They got rid of the blood in this level and turned it to a green acid. There's a couple other things I'm going to mention later on about censorship in this game. But mostly in this stage, you'll notice that the needles are not covered in blood, they're covered in acid. Now, these needles are instant death. Fall in the hole, you die. Touch the needles, you die. Touch a crusher, you die. Except for on top. Now, what we're going to do is our enemies actually become our friends. Boosts! Iframes. Thankfully, with all of these things, we're going to try to simplify these scenes so that we're not touching any of the needles. We can skip through them. If we do need to deal with them, they're either on a rotation, they're on a timer as soon as we start the stage. So it's not even like we spawn them and we can manipulate them. It's like, no, we have a timer that we have to obey as soon as we walk into the stage. So we do our best to avoid every single needle, and if we have, that was close, that drop, then we take boosts if we can't avoid them. Here's actually a perfect example of a boost that we generally do. 2 crushers, do we wait for them? No, we break the stairs, we take the stare in the face, and we just keep on walking. So, we're in the dungeon. Who are we facing? Why, it's Frankenstein, the monster. That's right, it's Frankie, baby! Now, Frankenstein... Okay, that's a scary knockback. Frankenstein is the boss that we're going to be facing here. Just after the Vegas Bridge, which is a total gamble. I do not expect... Yeah, okay, phew, that's what I thought. Vegas Bridge here, by the way, for anyone who's ever seen this before, it's very random and can end your run, even if you... Just like that! Even if you wait for the safety rotation. What you'll notice here, by the way, Frankie, he's getting hit, but Simon's not whipping him, he's whipping up. Frankie's collision box versus his... Oh no! 2 bad patterns! Oh! Okay, this is actually going to give me some time to talk about Frankie. Frankie's collision box versus his impact box for Simon. His damage box is bigger, so we can stand in front of him and whip up and still be hitting him while also taking care of the potions that he spawns. Now, he can spawn 3 kinds of potions. They're pink, blue, and turquoise, should memory serve. No, or gray. We don't see them long enough, hopefully, to actually know the colors. The ones that we do want to avoid are the ones that he actually ended up getting, which is the blue ones. They spawn fireballs and they're very hard to take care of. But the up whip should take care of them if you're lucky. The problem is that this game checks collision. Ah, yes, it's a silver one. It's pink, blue, and silver. The game checks for collision every second frame. So this is a 60 frame per second game. Every second frame, so 30 out of the 60, are checked for collision. What can happen is something known as a clip, where the game will prioritize either damaging an enemy, a projectile, or a candle. And it does this once every 2 frames. And it can prioritize the wrong thing. Oh, just gonna drop that there for a sec. If it does prioritize the wrong thing, you're getting damaged, or you're not taking care of the potion. And that's exactly what happened there, where Frankie took damage, and unfortunately, the potion got through. Here is the treasury, a beautiful stage. Gold, calming music. But don't let that lure you into a false sense of security. This stage is not easy. See, this is a lot of lag. The dissolving platforms, they produce tons of lag. The Richards that throw bones produce lag. And even at the very end of the stage, not only is there going to be lag, but a very quick flashing lights warning for anybody that might have any type of photosensitivity. There's been flashes from collecting the rosaries. They're not so bad, they flashed once, but the boss for Zaphat, it's very, very flashy, so if you have those, please, just take care if you have any issues with bright lights. Here you're going to notice the flashing, the dissolving, platforms, and they cause a lot of lag. You can jump on them and then jump off of them on the same frame, and they don't dissolve. But unfortunately, if you are too early, the jump will get eaten, and Simon will just be standing there. Like, you can't hold jump and Simon will just keep jumping. It doesn't work that way. The jump will get eaten. And then you're standing there because when you're holding jump, Simon doesn't pivot. Doesn't move. He just pivots in place. So you are stuck in place for long enough that chances are, if you're standing in the middle of that platform and you're not moving, you're going to fall to your death. Here, Simon does indeed take a boost to move forward. Blasts the fireballs. Let's see if Kenshin can make his way very cleanly through the ascent here on the stairs into Zap Bat, the golden shiny bat that protects stage 9. One fun little fact about this ascent, by the way, other than the meat at the very bottom, there is no other drop here other than money bags. This entire thing is money. Money is you can actually get a good one up here if you need to, just by collecting enough points on this scene. And actually, there's a little secret. I believe it drops meat if you jump on one of the treasures. I think it's something like 253, 256 times. It'll spawn meat over Simon's head, but that takes a little bit of time and it's not efficient for a speed run. Here we go. 22 whips. What does 22 whips mean? Well, that's a big bat, right? It'd be a shame if it broke up into, let's say, 3 smaller ones that then pooped gold and ruined your entire day. Oh, wait, that's what happens after 22 whips. Now, you see, that was a really good break. We are going to try to do 22 and have Zap be descending when we break Zap apart. And the reason being is that the pattern is momentum-based. So if Zap is very, very high up when you whip him, or far to the left or far to the right, he will take that momentum and swoop all the way around. That was a very, very good bat. This, though, we kill him when he's low, and he doesn't have any momentum. He stays roughly where he is. He might shift left and right a little bit, but he's not going to be swooping up and down. And this allows us to whip consistently the bats in 3s, and it does overlap damage on all 3. Here we are moving into stage A. Isn't it really a Castlevania game, though? If you don't have a clock tower level. So I'm just gonna take a moment to stop talking. Just jam out to bloody tears. Can we get all the cat jams and like all the jams in chat here? Alright, that's enough of fantastic music. The OST, by the way, for this is one of the best around. I highly suggest taking a look at a couple of the remasters that have been done. It is great to listen to, great to practice to, and great to play through. So it allows us to enjoy our resets just a little bit more. So this clock tower stage is a very difficult stage. There's a lot of rings, there's a lot of chains, there's a lot of moving around, and because the majority of the stage is vertical, there's a lot of falling off of stairs and falling off of ledges and being knocked into holes. These things can happen. It's what we try to avoid. We try to take our time to make sure we don't get knocked back. But we also want to go fast. We want to skip things the best that we can, and we want to move through and get as many boosts that we can to try to avoid spending time whipping, because every single time we whip, it's just about a quarter of a second. So, we don't want to whip excessively. Okay, that was a little terrifying what just happened. That ring grab could have been fatal, and I'm very, very glad. Oh, nice ring grab through the floor. Snazzy. Oh, I call shenanigans. You should have got that. Very, very well done. This level is very, very unforgiving. It is a gate, very much similar to that of 3, especially when it comes to the Pharaoh. The boss is up. What aggressive red skeletons! The boss of this stage, the mummy, the Pharaoh, is basically an RNG gate where it can cost you a lot of time based on the patterns. And any percent we want them left or right so that we can overlap our crosses. But basically, we just don't want to have to deal with a bottom left spawn in whip only. The reason why is that Simon's whip only goes horizontal and diagonal down if you are jumping and back flipping. And those inputs are sloppy, especially it's a shift around. It's hard. Especially because you're on the ledge, and if you miss an input or get knocked around by the bandages, you can end up in the hole very, very quickly, and it's not a good restart. And there's one of the spawns that I was talking about, but thankfully Kenshin has already done a fair amount of damage to be able to end this boss as fast as possible. What's great about that death as well, actually, as Chuck Royce pointed out, that the respawn, the checkpoint for that, is very, very, very close. So the amount of time that was lost on that was minimal, because he was able to rebuild his whip immediately and get right back into the fight. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Stage B. We are finally here at Dracula's lair. We're going to do our best to ascend. Now, one thing I forgot to mention throughout the entirety of this run is that the stairs in this game are designed in a way where if you were to put the stairs on a Cartesian plane and align the halfway point of the stairs, or at least the in-between point of the stairs at 0, 0 on a Cartesian plane, there is a non-existent registerable angle that Simon can actually pass through the stairs completely. We call this stairs boss. Even if you are holding up, if you pass through that angle at 0, 0, you are registering 0 for Simon's collision. So you will fall right through. So they knew about this designing this game, and they're like, it's ignorable. Unless, of course, we design an entire level about stairs that can dissolve and fall apart, and we have to jump and get the right angle. So we time our jumps at specific times to not get a bad angle, because if we go too far or too early, we can get a bad angle, and that's the run. And any runner can tell you that getting stairs bossed on stage B is frustrating, because there is a very specific jump that almost aligns you to get it. Like, you have to, you try your best, and it's right there, and it's just so natural, and you just start from the very bottom. So here, Kenshin is making his way up through the stairs, through the Richard Gauntlet, before he makes his way to the room of close associates. Now, the room of close associates. We're going to start off with Slagra. Kenshin has a lovely nickname for Slagra. It is the Destroyer. Unfortunately, Slagra can be very aggressive. Thankfully, in Whip only, it's a very straightforward fight, unless he decides to slide dash. Like that, which is an RNG attack. He normally just stands there and shoots fireballs, and we can whip him down back and forth. But there is a chance he can do two dashes. Oh my goodness! If you can see Kenshin's webcam right now, he is freaking out. This is such bad. Oh my good lord! Slagra can be very, very aggressive in the second phase. When we break the spear, Slagra comes down and can immediately do a dash. Now, your initial reaction is to jump right away. You actually want to wait for the audio to play, and then you can jump away and hopefully land on these pedestals. But Slagra can dash 3-4 times in a row, and if you're not reacting fast enough or jumping and doing back diagonal whips, he will chase you across the screen. And in an any percent run or a whip only run, it is just not fun to die as Slagra. He has taken many PBs, many runs, and Slagra is a pain in the butt. But we are moving on to Gaibon, because we are going to go ahead and let Gaibons be bygones as we do our best to whip him down. Gaibon has 2 phases. Very well done. This should be... Oh, got some whip cancels in there by accident. You can actually cancel too early and not get a full extension whip. So that can happen sometimes, and you end up doing limp whip damage. So that's the other thing. It's a very specific window for a whip cancel, so it's a very difficult technique. Gaibon is done. We are moving on to Death. But how do we kill Death? That's impossible. Just kidding. We do it all the time. And many, many years. The Delmonts are great for it. We're going to whip down Death. Death has 2 patterns and an in-between pattern. Well, there's 3 patterns, but it's like a transitional set. So we're going to try to whip down Death. He has this swooping pattern. We don't really like it. We can't use too much of it. He can stay up top while throwing these tiny sights, which is kind of annoying and wastes time. And then he has this third option where he comes down and he throws this scythe. Remember how I said, like, oh, it's 2 damage, it's 3 damage, it's 4 damage for things throughout the entirety of the game? That scythe does 5. It is the only thing in the game that does 5, and it hurts. So if you are missing any health and you take 2-3 hits, it's gonna go bad. And also, you're being sucked into him, so you're gonna get hit by it. You have to jump over, diagonal back whip, and all of that is very, very hard to do while pressing forward and not getting sucked in. For those who don't know, there is a stash here. Normally we would pick up a multiplier, some hearts, the cross, but we don't need that. We don't want to void the run. And just a quick heads up for anybody, there is a cross here right at the end of the stage. I didn't know that. I picked it up one time. I got very mad. Just a heads up. But here we are. We're finally at Dracula. We've picked up the health. We don't need any hearts. We're going to go ahead and whip him down. Now, regularly, just like in any other Dracula fight, well, the head is the weak point. We whip the head. There are 3 phases to Dracula. We have the purple fireball phase where we try to whip the head. the fireballs if we need to, if we're low on health. He has a fire elemental phase where he spawns 2 fire elementals, all the while spawning in random locations, except for the 4th spawn. The 4th, 8th, and 12th spawn, should you make it that far, are all directly on top of Simon, but the rest of them are RNG, so we have no way of manipulating 3 out of 4. So we have the fire elemental phase, which also spawns fire underneath, and you can get bad spawns with that. And the final phase, which is the purple lightning Drax about to freak out phase. There's also a transitional phase here, which if you land on the appropriate amount of health, Drax will spawn an orb which spawns meat. And it can also do damage, and getting killed by the purple orb is kind of like a backhanded compliment from Dracula, because here's the meat! Oh, I'm sorry, did you die? That's unfortunate! Here, we're going to be dealing with the purple lightning, and also, this is the final boss. The time is actually going to be on the orb grab. There's about 20 seconds after goes down before we have to stop the timer. GG, fantastic kill. Sub 40 whip only is very good, especially for a marathon. Very well done. Let's go ahead and drop those GGs in chat for Kenshin. Nicely done.
Yes, nicely done indeed.
All right, yep, 39-24. Very well done. Yeah, that's time. So, I'm going to go ahead and let Kenshin finally do some talking. He's been silent this entire time. He's been focused on the run, and he has deserved this stage. Congratulations on the run, Kenshin. You have done very, very well. And is there anything that you'd like to say to all the people watching?
Hello, thank you very much for your kind words. Yeah, this run was quite fun. There were several unfortunate mistakes, but after all, it was fun. Thank you very much for all the community who has met the incentive for upgrading this to whip only. Thank you very much to all the people who donated during this run, especially Trockler, the Meminator, who donated more than $100. Yeah, this run was really nice. I really enjoyed it. Several unfortunate deaths, but I want to say that a 39-minute run for whip only is a really good one. I am quite happy about this, actually.
Yeah, you did a fantastic job. I just want to go ahead very quickly and shout out a couple other things. You'd mentioned the community. The community is fantastic. We race weekly. On Sundays, we do the Wacky Weekly race. Sometimes it's any percent, sometimes it's whip only. Kenshin is a consistent racer. He is almost always available, and if you ever want to have a race, Kenshin is the most consistent runner. Whip only, any percent. He is very much active in that scenario. So if you ever want to pick up the game and you ever want to, practice a run alongside any of us, we are almost always racing every single week, and we also have a ton of resources as well. Shout outs to CastlevaniaSpeedruns.com that shows all of the strats for any percent beginner level as well. And I don't know if there's a whip only one, but that sounds like something that maybe either you or Django Draconian can take care of. So I just want to also thank GOC for having us here, and I'm very, very happy to allow us to whip Cancer's butt.
Yeah, thank you very much to this marathon event. This is a really nice thing to donate to. I really hope that this event is a success as in the other years. Please keep donating. This is a good cause. It's always good to fight against such a horrible disease for society.
Well said. Thank you very much, and thanks for that amazing showing of Whip Only and that awesome commentary, D&D.
Thank you.
Perfect. So in that note, we are going to jump over to a brief intermission and get set up for even more Castlevania. This time, Castlevania Rondo of Blood. So stay tuned, folks.
Bye.